All right, we are biology 2084C, which is ecology and evolution. Is there anybody who should be in a different class? Okay, that looks good. We are a very small class this semester for a variety of different reasons. So I'm hoping that it's really a lot of fun and that we can be somewhat informal with each other because we are going to spend a lot of time together over the course of the semester. I have handed you a syllabus that covers both the lecture, which is what we're doing today, and we'll have on Thursday at the same time, same place, and the lab, which is Fridays. And it's Friday morning, 10:10, I think, till like 1 o'clock p.m. And we're going to meet over in McDonough Hall in lab 240. And I'll give you a few more specifics about what you should wear to lab on Thursday, because we're not there yet. We'll talk about lab schedule and kind of what's going on. I'll do a little bit of it today, but we'll do a lot of it Friday when we actually get it. Okay. Ecology and evolution is a class that I have designed to be kind of a sophomore, junior level course. You may have, I'm hoping that you have some biology under your belt already, and now we can take it to one of the next levels. And then we can start to take some of the basic information that you already know, like I don't need to define a species for you maybe, but I will. And we're gonna do different things for those species. How do they work together in food chains? How do we build communities? Let's do some ecology, which we'll talk about what do you think ecology is today. And we're also gonna throw in a fair bit of evolution because it turns out that the ecology of organisms lots of times is related to their evolutionary background. And that the ecology of an organism affects its evolution and adaptation. And so teaching them together becomes very interesting, and I think is a lot more engaging than if you just take an evolution class on its own, which can be a little dry, I'll be honest. Okay, and it has a ton of overlap with genetics, which is another reason why sometimes we put evolution with genetics, and it can be like, oh, I took a genetics class, now I'm taking evolution. Like, they should play off each other, just like ecology and evolution. And so here at this university, we teach ecology and evolution together. Okay, everybody feels good. All right, or at least you're not ready to run out. All right, so who am I? My name is Danielle Winget. I've been teaching at the undergraduate level for about 7 years now. The best way to reach me is via email. You can see my email address there. I have it on the board for you. It is like the second thing on the syllabus. The third thing on the syllabus is my phone number, which is also an okay way to reach me, but email is definitely my preferred communication tool. I can respond to you usually within 24 hours on email. I have 8-year-old twin sons. I haven't had a coherent phone conversation in 8 years. So if we get in a situation where it's necessary, we might in this class. You may need to text me something, but like I never answer the phone actually because it's just not done in our house. If you don't hear from me within 24 hours on email, I didn't get your email and you need to send it again. And the way that that'll come up is if you're preparing something for a lab and we need to coordinate on something, or if you're turning in a homework assignment for this class. Usually this is where it comes up, you know. Or the third place is I have a question about an exam, studying for it, and I need an answer. You definitely can call me Danielle. You can call me Dr. Winget, Mrs. Winget, or Mom. Those terms all apply to me. The mom thing will be weird. I really prefer Danielle. People who call me Dr. Winget have not met me, and I have not gotten to tell them that Danielle thing yet. If you're writing me an email, you're like, I don't know how to start this. I feel like I should put something in front of Danielle. Dear Danielle, it's fine, okay? You really are feeling it that day, like you feel like you're asking for the universe and we can donate it to you, Dr. Danielle, okay? Like that's how I call myself. That's what I respond to. That's what I identify as. I already know Madison's name. I've had her in class before. I will get to know your names very shortly. And we hopefully will be on a first name basis, okay? We're going to meet, as I mentioned here, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12:20 to 1:40. That's the lecture portion of class where I'll have slides and figures, and I'll wave my hands like this and we'll talk to each other as really what I'm hoping for about the things that are on the slides. The lecture is definitely designed to move through our textbook, which is what I'm wandering over here to grab out of my bag. And I'll talk about this guy in a couple of minutes. Friday's lab class is really designed for us to get a chance to practice the techniques of being a field biologist. My hope is that on most classes, including this Friday, we spend at least some portion or all the portion of the class outside and doing the actual techniques. Most of the classes we will actually be meeting not here, but at another site in town that's very close. And there are enough of us that if you want to take yourself there, that's fine. If we all want to meet here and get in the minivan, I will take you to the places. They're all like about a 15-minute drive from here. So we have lots of time to go out there and then come back to campus. So even though we might be going other places in lab, I will keep it within the time frame of lab. Like I will have you back here on campus at 1 or leaving where we are at least by 12:30, 12:45 so you can get to the next thing that you need to do. Okay. Kind of the ecology labs, I could teach it to you in the lab. It's dead on boring. Okay. And you won't learn nearly as much as if you go out, and most particularly if stuff totally fails and breaks. Okay, that's what's best. And for that to happen, we have to get away from the cookbook labs. We have to go out and actually do stuff. Okay. Again, the best way to reach me via email. And again, the more that we communicate about stuff, the better it will go in lots of different ways. And I have a couple different things for you to help with. All right. What do you need for this class to be successful? You need a textbook, which is our Elements of Ecology. It is the 9th edition. Hopefully it's available for you at the bookstore if you would like to get it. You can rent it. You can rent it not from the university. You can rent it online from Amazon. You can buy it online. You can get an 8th edition if you want to. It's definitely going to be cheaper. You can rent an 8th edition. It's going to pretty much have the same information in it for our purposes. Okay. The figure numbers might be different, and there might be some new ones in the most recent edition, which is still from 2015 even. But it's going to be the same basic information that you need to know for lecture and for exam purposes. Okay. If you are having trouble getting access to a book, let me know. Okay. In a minute here, you'll see that we're going to cover material maybe quickly, maybe not in class. And so getting the textbook this first couple of days is pretty important so that you can be ready for classes. And we're gonna try to move through the abiotic environmental stuff kind of quickly so we can get to talking about organisms and how they interact with each other. So if you're having, as I mentioned, if you're having trouble getting it, let me know. I can put the first couple chapters online on our Blackboard site for us so you can have access to them if you don't have one yet. I'll definitely do that too. The second thing that you need for class is access to the internet. Either here on campus, where you work, the library at your home, the library civic center in your community. We will have materials and resources that I'm going to put on Blackboard, and I'm still on Blackboard. I haven't moved me to Canvas yet. I don't know why, but I still have a Blackboard site for this class. And every day after class, I will put a PDF of the lecture slides on Blackboard. So if you miss something, or you need to check what the homework assignment is and what it's due, it will be there for you. I will also put up copies of the syllabus, which is already on our Blackboard site. Any materials, background reading you might need for lab. We're going to do a couple of publication discussions of actual primary literature this semester. That'll be on that. I mean, I'm going to hand it to you, but it'll be there as well. You can turn in homework assignments and lab reports on Blackboard as well. And so having access to that will give you the stuff that you need to make sure you're succeeding in class. If you're having trouble getting access to it, let me know. The university has lots of different resources that can help you out. The third thing that you need for class is something to write with. Okay. And that can be your computer that you're typing on. It can be a physical implement that you want. I will give you a lab notebook on Friday that you will write in. You do not need a lab manual for this class. Okay. I will give you all the lab materials. All right, guys. Okay, the next thing in the syllabus is a course description. That's the bottom of the first page. And then we have these course learning outcomes or objectives that we have. that are on the top of the second page. There's these little bullets. I definitely see that they relate to a few different core topics, which are that we're going to talk about how organisms exist and interact and what affects their diversity and abundance. And that is the fundamental of the class. Why do we see what we see, where we see it, and how does it vary over time and space? Okay, like constantly. Oh, how does that now vary from ecosystem to ecosystem? How does that vary from season to season? How does it vary day to night? Okay, those are the like constant questions that underlie a lot of ecological studies. And that understanding then often lets us talk about things like ecological organization, our current ecological and environmental problems. So each unit, I'll try to bring in one or more kind of common or current topics in ecology that we can talk about. You know, the first week we'll talk about El Nino, well, next week El Nino and La Nina, and why these are phenomenon, and then what kind of ecological impact do they have? Why do we care? Okay. And we'll talk about invasive species. We'll talk about climate change. Okay. And the purpose of this is to give you the background information so that you can start to generate hypotheses and experimental time to order to test some of your personal questions that you have. I'm going to give you some questions and we're going to test them in lab. And then part of lab is that you come up with a question and I'll help you develop an experiment and actually carry it out and test it. Okay. An enormous part of being a scientist is just practicing that, doing experiments. Okay, like we can do it in lab all the time. I can teach you how to pipette. We can run PCRs and do gel electrophoresis. But coming up with that question is like kind of daunting. And you gotta be like, no, I totally got that. I have 1,000 questions. Cool. We're gonna get a chance to write them down. If you're like me, like having an opportunity to sit down and just think of a question is something that doesn't actually happen a lot in daily life, but it's how we start doing science. Okay, it's like the basis of the scientific method is starting with a question. And so we're gonna, this class is for me a way for you to practice that, how to be a scientist and how to do something. And our context is ecology. But you can use that for anything that you might be interested in, whether you want to be a geneticist or a medical technician, or you want to become a physician or a dietitian or a pharmacist, or you want to become an academic research scientist that, you know, goes out on the ocean and collects data 6 months out of the year and is in the laboratory analyzing that the other 6 months out of the year. And then the other 6 months out of the year, you're writing to try to get funding for that. Notice that they don't have 18 months. All right, when we get to the end of the semester, hopefully we'll have touched on, if not really gotten into all of these different learning objectives. Some of them we're gonna do like just flat out. Other ones, we're gonna do it on the slide. I'm gonna teach you something and then later you might realize, oh yeah, we actually did that. And we accomplished that objective and I kind of was okay. All right, let's do this thing. Okay. The next thing we talked about textbook. The next thing that's in our kind of grading packet is grading, which I'll talk about here. In addition to what hopefully is on kind of the fourth page, the back of the second page, which is the topics for each day, kind of a course schedule. Is that true for everybody? Cool. Okay. The course schedule kind of it lays out hopefully what we're going to talk about each day in class, the reading that goes along with it, the dates that we're going to have exams. There's going to be 3 of them, 3 kind of units and modules. We're going to talk about individuals, kind of species and evolution, the first part of class, abiotic environments. We take a test on that. We're going to talk about populations, which is competition, population growth rates, life histories, starting into predation, how different species interact with each other. That's the second unit of class. And then we're going to take that into communities and ecosystem landscapes in the 3rd unit of class. Each of those units, we're going to have an exam and a couple homeworks. I think there's 2 homeworks in each unit, so that each of these units is worth just over 20% of your grade. Okay, but that's only like 2/3 of your grade. The other huge chunk of your grade comes from the lab. Okay, so the way that your lab grade, and we'll talk about this in a lot more detail on Friday, is that you come to lab, you participate in lab. That's an enormous chunk of it. About 10% of your lab grade is going to come from writing up your individual project that you do this semester. And we're going to talk all about how to write a scientific paper. If you're like, Don't worry. That's what this class is designed for. I'm hoping to give you lots of time to be able to do that. We're going to talk about how to analyze data. You will do that with your data. I will help you design a good experiment so that you can have something to write about in the lab report. Okay, and that's where a big chunk of your grade comes from. And I think it's a kind of a requirement that you're in lecture as well as lab. I don't have anybody that's in one and not the other. And so that's how we'll get your grade. A portion of your grade comes from coming to lecture, and that's in class participation. And so there may be days when we do something in class that's like an activity where you write your name on a worksheet, and I'm going to give you, usually it's like a half a point of your final grade for coming to class that day. It really helps because then I know that you have heard the material that's on the exam. You got a chance to ask questions about it or to sidetrack me so we do something that's more interesting, so that I then know that you're probably going to have success when it comes to exam time. It's my way to draw you, and I don't take formal attendance except other than in lab. And again, it's really obvious with a class of our size whether or not you're here and if you're engaging with me. And so that's about 8%. So you can do great in the class, but if you don't engage or participate, you'll get a lower A than you would have otherwise. Okay. Most students in this class get somewhere between a C2 and A. My C student last semester, I honestly don't know how she got a C. She got a C because she did great in lab because she did really bad on exams. But think about that. She did really bad on exams and she got a C in the class. Okay. There's other stuff kind of building into your grade that can help you. Okay. Let's see what's next. Okay, yeah. Do we have any questions about that? The exam dates that are on here that are bolded will be the exam dates. Okay. Yeah.
So what's the homework format of the homework?
They vary just a little bit. So sometimes I'll give you a homework that's like our first homework assignment, which I'll give you on Thursday, is to do just a couple sentences about a few different ecologists that have been in the past.
Oh.
So it'll be like fact-based.
So would it not be based on the reading that you do in there?
Yes, some of it will be. So it'll kind of go there. There are 6 of them, and usually in each one there's like a fact-based homework. Like, yes, you're gonna, and lots of times our homework is actually math-based. So you have a chance to work through some of these equations and problems that we're going to talk about in class and get stuck and ask questions about it, rather than we sit here and try to do math together for a session. And we all have different math capabilities, including myself. So also there'll be one kind of fact homework usually per unit, and then there's like another thing where I ask you to read an article that interested you and tell me about it, or listen to this podcast and answer some questions about it. Okay. We do, this is a big credit class for you guys, like it's 3 hours of lecture, and then you get 1 credit for this huge chunk of time, this 3 hours of lab that you're gonna do. My expectation is that lab should be somewhat self-contained, and that what we do in lab stays in lab, and you should, other than when you get to writing up your project, and I'll give you time in class to write too, you shouldn't have to spend a lot of time outside of class on lab. That's not always true of lecture because you're going to need to study, you're going to need to do some reading, you're going to end up doing homework. So try to give yourself at least 2 hours a week to work on ecology and evolution in one capacity or another. And if you hit an exam week, it might be more than that you need to do. Good question. Okay. The shaded lines here are our Friday lab dates. And you can see kind of what we have scheduled right now for what we're going to do in lab on each of these days. Friday this week, we're going to start with talking about the scientific method, and we are going to take a hike outside here on campus. And as I'll remind you again on Thursday, here at UC, we do ask that you wear long pants or skirts to lab and closed-toed shoes. Most of the time, we won't be in the lab coat, lab goggle scenario because we'll be outside. But I will provide gloves for you guys on most days because we can do a ton of stuff with probes now that kind of do stuff almost AI-like for us in environmental science. But you need to have practice with the chemistry too, so you know what that probe is doing and when it's lying to you. It's not lying on purpose, but you know, false positives do happen. And again, note that these first 2 weeks, we're going to be here on campus for lab, and then I'll talk to you about getting out to the CNC, which is the Cincinnati Nature Center. We're going to be out there for a few weeks, and then we're going to do, I'm hoping you get a chance to do your independent study. You can choose either to do at Valley View, which is a really nice nature preserve in Milford, or you can come back to the Cincinnati Nature Center for your independent project if you want to do that. You can do it here on campus too. If that answers your question, you can do that here on campus. It's okay. We don't all need to go to the same place on the independent study days together, as long as I know that you're not gonna start a fire. I have confidence in you guys. Okay. Okay. All right. Feel good? Mostly. Okay. All right. Some other things to note are what my expectations are of you as students, and we'll get to this point in class. There's a lot of me talking today. Hopefully there will be somewhat less of that on other days. Definitely this is a participation-driven class that and here in lecture, a little bit less so, although I'll ask you questions and you respond to questions and come to class. In lab, it's really participation-driven. You're gonna have to do the hands-on stuff in order to be able to accomplish the objectives to get the data that you need to answer the questions. Definitely at times, with just a few of us, it might feel like I'm the great white shark circling you, hoping to draw answers out of you. This is definitely a feedback loop where if you are participating and you're asking questions, I'm going to be excited. We're going to have a good time. If you're having a bad day, you might feel like punching the shark and moving them out of the way, and that's possible too. Okay, you're allowed to have bad days. If it's a bad day every day, then I'm gonna pull you aside and we're gonna talk about it and be like, dude, what's going on? Because this shouldn't be the class where this is happening for you. The more that you talk and ask and interact with your classmates, the better time you're gonna have. We're gonna work in groups. The independent study is designed for you to have your own research question so that we can have a diversity of presentations last day of lab. But if you wanna work as a pair and it comes down to that, then that works. That's fine. That goes along with professionalism. Come to class, be ready to go each day, have done the reading ahead of time so that you can somewhat follow along with what's going on. You might have some questions about material ahead of time. If you are taking notes, let's not be on our phones all the time. This generally, again, isn't a problem in this particular class because we cover a ton of material and hopefully you're excited about it. And I don't need to be like, get your head out of your apps all the time and get you kind of motivated to do things. With that professionalism comes academic integrity. I don't think you guys are going to cheat on exams, but again, you're having a bad day, okay? And things happen. And so we'll work together. If you have a question about how to cite a source, and you don't want to plagiarize, which is a huge thing in our syllabus about plagiarizing stuff, we're going to talk about it. I'll give you some guidelines. I'm going to know when you rip something off and have inserted a paragraph from the textbook into your homework assignment. My homework assignments are designed so that shouldn't really be possible for you to do that and be able to answer the question, okay, either. So we'll work together on that. Definitely one thing that I want to remind you of is kind of my grading policies. We talked about where your grade comes from. We have these 3 exams. And I think that's like 50%, 51% of your grade. This is on page 3 of our syllabus. 51% of your grade comes from exams. 15% comes from these homework assignments. They're worth 2.5 points of your final grade total, or each. 26% comes from your coming to lab. I think we have like 12 labs. We get a couple of days off for holidays on Fridays, which actually is awesome for us. Hey, good Friday off. I think we have like 12 labs. Each of those will get you some points for coming to class to get this chunk from writing the report and doing your own experiment in class participation. If you miss an in-class participation, it's a 0 unless we've communicated about it. Email me and let me know you weren't going to be in class. I can often let you make that up. I cannot let you make up an exam unless you have documentation. Like I was sick, I went to urgent care, or we've talked about it ahead of time that it's my sister's wedding and I've got to be there because I'm the maid of honor. Okay, like there's stuff that we can work out, but I have to know ahead of time. Can't come in after the exam and be like, I was sick. Okay, you got to need a day up. That is happening to you. And along with that comes homework assignments. They're 20% penalty for each day that they're late. So, get 5 days and then it's not worth anything for you anymore. with one exception. Okay, and that's the something unexpected happened card. Life happens, especially with this class where we're having to do kind of crazy things with our schedule, and it doesn't fit in one of those kind of defined lecture schedule or even lab kind of schedule courses. You can turn in your something unexpected happened card with your assignment, whatever it is, and I'll grade it as on time. I won't penalize you for being late. Okay, but you have to have the card. Work. If you manage to hang on to the card for the whole semester, I usually give you some bonus points on your final exam for not having a crazy semester and for managing not to lose the card. Okay. All right. I think everybody got a green one, and I'm left with the pink one. So I teach another course here, and they also have something unexpected happen cards. Their cards are different than yours. So you have to use one for this class. You can't get somebody from the other classes card. I think the key for ours is that they have purple markers. Okay. You got any questions? You don't feel too great whitish yet. Okay, I'll participate too. I'll be here ready to teach. I'll grade things in a timely fashion. I'll do my best to be a consummate professional. To you, I'm the expert now in these techniques in lab, as well as the information that we're going to cover in class. But again, to me, that's a two-way street. That the more you engage me, the more I can give you beyond just what I have kind of prepared for us to talk about that day or to do that day. As I mentioned before, the more that we sidetrack, the more that I'm interested and excited to come to class, the more that you're going to get out of class. The exam dates will stay the same. The homework due dates will stay the same. The topics we talk about might vary depending upon what we get to in class, how far we get in class, and what we cover. There are definitely some things, those learning objectives, that I'll make sure that we cover regardless. But how we do it is definitely flexible. It's not written in stone. It's going to happen each day, which may make you feel good and may make you feel nervous. Okay. Any questions? Okay. All right. One note about safety. The door locks as soon as we close it. So if for some reason we need to be in this room and stay in this room, we close the door. We are here. Okay. We might be here for a while. I got some stuff to help us with that. Don't worry about it until it becomes a problem. That's kind of what I think. We'll talk about lab safety in the lab when we actually can see our space on Friday. But as always, if we have a fire, we leave. Okay. If we have to, we can't actually jump out a window. I'd rather not. Okay. If we do have a fire, we're going to meet in the parking lot or by the flagpole, whichever is safe for us. Don't run off, because I need you to make contact with me before you run off screaming so that I don't come back in the burning building looking for you. Okay, I will do that. That is something that I will do for you. I'd rather not, so stick with me, okay? Same thing if we have a tornado or inclement weather. The UC text alert system is really good for letting us know if we have canceled class or late class. Probably not gonna be a problem for us. We're out in the field. We'll be sticking together as a group other than independent study days, so that if we're having some type of weird weather or phenomenon, you will be my chicks and I will guide you to safety. Okay, that's my job, is to know where we're supposed to go for each of these different types of events. Okay. Something else to remind you of is that if you need help with tutoring, if you need help with library resources, if you need help with gas money, you need help with book money, you need help with food money or food itself, you need help finding housing, UC's got that. Okay, there are lots and lots of resources that UC has that actually don't get taken advantage of to their fullest extent. This class in particular, we're going to be meeting over lunchtime on Friday. I will give us time in lab to take a break. It's really easy to do when we're out in the field. It's a little bit less so when we're here on campus those few days, because it's really easy for us as college students and professors to forget to eat because we're in class all the time. And it's like, when are you supposed to actually have a meal?
we'll practice that. And we can do that in this class as well. If you're finding that that's a more persistent problem for you in one arena or another, let me know. And I can get you in touch with the resources that can help you out. It's not as easy as me walking out to the parking lot and being like, here are the keys to a new car to replace your clunker. Can't do that. But I have lots of resources that I can help you get closer to that car that works for you and meets your needs. Okay. The other thing is, like, nothing is too crazy in this class. My motto for this class is it's only crazy till we do it. So there's a lot of possibilities for what we can talk about and do in class and what we can talk about and do. Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions? I think I did safety the last. We talked about that stuff. Okay. Okay. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to fill out a little worksheet for me that tells me a little bit about you. You may know each other, and I know Madison, but I don't know everybody else quite yet. It has several questions on it. Take your time. When we're done, I'll ask you to find a partner and talk a little bit about your answers. Keep in mind that. What else?
Prefer pronoun like he, she, it, they. That's a weird question. I have with our the social justice people. I think it's so we have to tell people. Do you guys got it? Nope. I am like one of the worst.